All my bad behaviors as an adult came from my shame, my embarrassment of having dyslexia.
I'm an adoptive parent of a child who has had enough trauma that he's taking it out on me. I got hit, headbutted, peed on, pooped. It was so obvious that he was trying to push me away and not even let my love in. Some people were saying, no, he's crazy. He needs to go on psych meds for the rest of his life. And I'm looking at the situation and saying, I think this is only his trauma, and it's become so powerful that it now holds him in its power. He doesn't have power over it. It's incredible to see the impact that emotional wounds can have on us. And we can go through experiences and even downplay it.
Trauma is a toxin, and people don't know that. I always say the bucket overflows, and that's when the symptoms start. That's when life goes, what happened? By the way, this happened a lot to people in COVID. You'll talk to people say, I just haven't felt the same since. This was a virus that our bodies never saw before. So it's very traumatizing.
All of those studies on the adverse childhood experiences that literally have now been associated with every single chronic health condition. Adverse childhood experiences does not make a person sick. It's the unresolved emotional wounds from those experiences that will make us sick decades later.
So how do we resolve them? Did you know the reason you may not be getting well? You could have stored up traumas in your cells. Listen, you hear me talk about how we store up, bioaccumulate toxins, and it leads to all kinds of diseases, anxiety, no energy that get through a day, brain fog. But you know that the body doesn't know the difference of physical, chemical, or emotional trauma? Well, my next guest is going to teach you how to accelerate getting these stored traumas out of your cells, bring back health. She trains my doctors and myself on this. And she even wrote an incredible book called The Biology of Trauma. Dr. Aimie, Kristen, thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
This is such an important topic because trauma
is
a toxin.
Move this up a little bit. There you go.
Trauma is a toxin.
It is. Trauma is a toxin, and people don't know that. Look, when I was helping really sick people individually, right now I have a program that does it, but I would always try to figure out if I felt like one of their perfect storm stressors, meaning I always say it's at least 3 traumas, stresses come together, physical, chemical, emotional, doesn't matter. Bam, someone's bucket overflows, they get sick, right? If I felt like the big trauma was emotional traumas, I would avoid those because I wasn't the expert. I would tell people that you're the expert. Okay, but I also realize though that any combination of physical, chemical, or emotional trauma, they build up in our flesh, in our tissues, in our cells, and then we're sick. So you're the expert. Many people out there are going to be able to literally break through today just on what you're going to tell them. And I know it because you did it with my doctors on our training call.
Yeah, it's incredible to see the impact that emotional wounds can have on us. And we can go through experiences and even downplay it. A lot of my patients will say, well, it wasn't that bad, especially compared to someone else's childhood or someone else's experience. And then we hold that and our tissues hold it because we're not able to see, no, this does have an impact and I need to resolve it. The word that I use a lot is repair. How do I need to repair this? Because the damage has been done.
Yeah. I was one of those people that said exactly what you said. So I had dyslexia as a child. And I almost always say this too, just showing how I minimize it, because I always feel like if I bring up my dyslexia as a trauma, I feel like I minimize people's real traumas. So I'm embarrassed almost to say it, but I'll say this. All my bad behaviors as an adult came from my shame, my embarrassment of having dyslexia, not being how to read, and it was traumatizing, to the point where you hide it, so that was a huge trauma for me. Being sick was a huge trauma for me, right? And I minimized all of it only to realize that it had to be part of my healing journey, and only to realize that until I got rid of that, no wonder I still had certain sensitivities, et cetera. So it was part of my breakthrough as well. But okay, and one thing I loved, and we're going to do this, just preempting this, you gave some immediate things to my doctors to do. And physically, they changed, in the moment, right? So we're going to do that. So you're going to get that today. But I want to pull back because, first of all, you are a double board certified physician. You have a master's degree in biochemistry. Wow. And public health, right? So a little overly educated, I would say. No,
It's my trauma response.
I would say, but yeah, I mean, that is one heck of a, what a pedigree this is. But no, but I mean, I would say this, when I look back at all my education, my best training came out of my own story. So let's start there. You have a pain to purpose story with a son, but let me tell the story. How did you get into this?
How I got into this, the moment my life changed was when I decided to become a foster parent. Mm-hmm. And it was something that
By the way, my life changed when we adopted 2 kids too. Another trauma I had. I just
Right?
yeah, exactly. But showing you that there's traumas in what you don't think.
There's traumas in where you don't think. Mm-hmm. And it's not so much about what it is. It's your experience of it and mm-hmm. feeling all alone, confused, lost in that. Mm-hmm. So I became a foster parent, and when they placed Miguel with me, he was 4 years old at the time. He had been in foster care since age 9 months. He was going to go into a group home if he did not make it with me. I'm single. I'm in medical school, and I decide to adopt. I didn't know how I was going to make it. I didn't know how I was going to do this. He'd already phased through his honeymoon period, and I was seeing a lot of the behaviors that the social workers were seeing, which was why he could not be placed in any other home that had children or pets. His behaviors were that aggressive. Yeah. And so taking this decision was a big deal, and I knew it was a big deal, but I could not bear the thought of now a 5-year-old going into a group home for the rest of his childhood. I wanted to be able to give him something that he could look back on his childhood and say, that was a good time. Those were good memories. I remember feeling happy.
Good for you.
Well,
yeah, I know. Yeah.
You know what it's like, right? Then the reality hits. Then the
mm-hmm.
reality hits of, by day, I'm a medical student. By night, I'm an adoptive parent of a child who has had enough trauma that he's taking it out on me. And here's where I really first started to realize the impact of our past. I literally did think that when I provided him a new home, a new environment, a new relationship, I know what you're going to say. That he'd be able to recognize and leave the past in the past.
Yes.
And be able to say, you're my new mom.
Ignoring his traumas.
Ignore the traumas.
His behaviors are out of the traumas, not out of his logical mind of, she gave me a life, so therefore I'm going to do really good, right? Yeah, not so simple.
No. So as I'm learning all these lessons I can see that my son now is not choosing to react in these ways. He does not like to be this way. This is not his true self.
Of course, yeah.
And he has no conscious control over it. Something seems to take over. Some people were calling it, he must be demon possessed. Some people were saying, no, he's crazy. He needs to go on psych meds for the rest of his life. And I'm looking at the situation and saying, I think this is only his trauma. And it's become so powerful that it now holds him in its power. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have power over it.
Yeah.
And as I started to
by the way, I bet you people watching this right now relate to just even that.
Just that.
They don't feel like they have power over what comes upon them, their behaviors, their thoughts, their emotions around certain things, their reactions in their marriage, their reactions with their kids, right? Because they don't have control with the way they're functioning. But that can change.
This is not what we've been taught. We've been taught that everything is under our conscious control.
Yeah.
Everything is a conscious decision. And it's not. Mm-hmm. The body, the autonomic nervous system, is the most powerful survival system in our body, much stronger than our brain.
Right. That's right.
So when something would trigger him, and for him, it was the word no. I'm sure you can relate. Yes. Am I like bringing up memories, Dan?
Absolutely. Realizing that, I think I have more trauma release.
We've got another layer to go.
More trauma release that I need to do.
Another layer to go. For him, just that word no, whether it was no, it's not time to eat right now. No, you can't have that sugar right now. No, didn't matter.
And
It did not matter.
In a day's time, you probably tell a kid no 50 times, right? I mean, I'm making a number up. Who knows, right? Probably more.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it would get triggered, and something would take over, and he would become so rage-filled and take it out on me. I got hit, head-butted, peed on, pooped. Like it was so obvious that he was trying to push me away and not even let my love in.
It would have been easy at that point to say, you know what, I'm done. I didn't anticipate this, expect this. I didn't sign up for this, right? I think that's what most people would have done. I mean, and honestly, in a lot of ways, without criticism, it's like, gosh, yeah, I mean, your life you're in medical school. You can't go through that. So what was it about you that wouldn't allow that to happen or make that choice?
Probably some of my own trauma.
Okay.
That once I decide I'm in, I am all in.
Yeah.
And it's been very hard for me in the past to say I quit. Quitting as a child meant you lose everything. You lose respect, you lose love, you lose attention. You're the child that is a loser.
Yeah. Yeah. So somehow that was put into your, consciousness, right? That, you don't quit. Yeah. Whether it was your father, mother, teacher, brother, sister, who knows, but that was part of, your
that was
identity.
my survival wiring. And these things get wired in at such an early age and in such a subconscious way that we don't even recognize most of what we do is actually coming from this. What do I need to do to survive?
Yeah.
What do I need to do to be loved? What do I need to do to not be abandoned? And we go through all of these circumstances in life, relationships in life with that philosophy, not even realizing it. And so I'm working with Miguel. I'm all in. And there are many evenings when I am on my knees, on the floor, crying. I don't know what else to do. It's been another really long day. These were hour-long rages. I'm holding him so that he doesn't hurt me, hurt himself, run away, break the windows, and trying to think, what have I missed? What am I missing here that I haven't been able to give him yet? And so I keep running through the list. Well, I haven't tried this therapy. Well, I haven't tried that. Should I try that medication? Many of your people, this is the same process that they go through, whether for themselves or for someone else. What am I missing? What do I do next? You become willing to try anything if it will help. This was 6 long years for me. 6 long years for me of figuring out what are all the pieces that a person needs in order to be able to make that shift and say, oh, that was in the past. That's not happening in my reality now. I can be a different person now. I can be in the present moment now and not drag the past into my present, which only recreates my future. So the levels that I discovered are really important. There are 3 levels at which trauma takes over. And that would be, 1 is the mind. We've already talked about some of the beliefs that we can form about not only ourselves, but about other people. One in particular is often a belief that I can't trust other people. They're not going to come through for me. They're going to let me fall. If I lean on them, they're going to...
Protection.
Protection.
Survival.
I have to guard. I have to brace. I have to be super independent. And I need to keep people at an emotional distance. I can't let them see the real me. I can't let them see how scared I am. I can't let them see that coping mechanism, that overeating, that whatever it is that you're trying to hide, right? And then we go into the secrecy and the shame, what you brought up with the dyslexia. It feels so shameful that then we're in it all alone.
Yeah.
No one
understands. Yeah. And back then, no one did.
No one did.
Yeah. It wasn't like, oh, you have a dyslexia. Oh, some of the most brilliant people had dyslexia. I was never told that.
Right.
I just thought I was stupid.
You're
honestly.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so then that's the programming that gets wired into our cells. So it's not just our brain that trauma messes with. Trauma becomes our biology. So these other two
Because our
layers
thoughts become our biology.
Yes.
Biology of belief.
Biology of
Bruce Lipton.
belief. Yes. And we also want to look at the body level. You've already mentioned the tissues. So there is a body level and there is a biology level. Body level is an example if someone is in a car accident. They're driving down that same stretch of road. It's a different day now. It's a different drive. They're no longer in danger. Their brain can see that. But what does their body do? Their body starts to make their heart beat fast. Their hands start to sweat. Their arms start to tremble.
Even release things like cytokines that it did in the trauma response.
Exactly.
And inflammation, you feel horrible, have a headache.
And then they start to feel like, well, my willpower is really weak because here I am trying to change my thought. I can see that I'm not in danger and my thought is not changing my body's reaction. So this is where we see that regardless of the thoughts, regardless of the mind level, the body has its own memories.
Yes, unfortunately, yeah.
I want to use the word crazy, but I find the body fascinating in all of this wisdom. So I don't want to call it crazy, but it's fascinating. It's intriguing to see.
It is. You know, one thing that I always teach is the number one thing your body wants to do is survive. It's the first and foremost.
Thank you.
It will prioritize survival over anything.
Everything.
Even why, like, people say, well, why does a joint overinflame or this? Because it's just trying to survive. It will do anything in the moment to survive. It's not worried about what happens 10 years from now that you have arthritis. It's trying to survive this moment because it has to stay alive. That's a good thing, but it can be also a bad thing.
And I think that people who are not physicians don't really realize the extent to which our body will go to help us survive.
It's amazing.
I was a general surgery resident for 4 years. Speaking of trauma.
It's a lot of trauma.
General surgery residency. And so I'm seeing a lot of people coming in from a trauma, a physical trauma, an accident, a fall, whatever it is. And I'm watching their body fight to survive. They are on that line. They could die any minute. They've lost a lot of blood. They've gone too cold. It's been too long that they've been out there alone without the ambulance people arriving. So I'm watching their body and watching it fight to stay alive. The body is incredible.
Amazing.
So this idea that you've brought up that it's more powerful than the brain. When the brain says, no, we're fine. And the body says, no, we're not. And you clearly do not understand the seriousness of the situation. I am going to step in and our autonomic nervous system takes over. And there's no logical control at that point. You will find yourself doing things that you never thought that you would do because it's not a choice. It's a survival response. It's like being dunked underwater. Your body will say, I need oxygen, I need oxygen, I need oxygen. And you will say, no, we're fine. And your body is like, no. And it will surface in order to get that oxygen that it needs. It's going to overpower our logical brain. So this idea then that the body has memories, and it has, in trauma therapy, we say it's been coupled with different sensory information. So coupled meaning when we have a sensory input, something that we see, something that we hear, something that we smell. People can have reactions to smell.
It happened to me.
Happened to you.
After all my toxicity issues,
Yes, right?
I realized probably more after I got better
Yes.
that I was reacting to chemicals.
Yes.
You know, perfumes, colognes.
Right.
I remember sitting in a Bible study and like brain fog, turning irritable, anxious because there was new carpet. Right. And the formaldehyde was saying, but it was like, you know, I didn't realize what was going on. When I was sick, I don't think I noticed it as much. It was when I got better, my body was literally saying, I'm going to save your life. These chemicals made you sick, right? It's like, but don't worry, I got this.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Massive response.
Right.
Yes.
So I literally had to reprogram that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's exactly this idea of coupling with a sensory input. It's coupled with danger. This smell means danger.
Yeah. Yep.
Seeing this means danger. People who've been bit by a dog before, right? They just see a dog across the street. The dog's not even interested in them.
Yeah.
Danger.
Danger. Yeah. By the way, I still do it with mold.
Yes.
If I like,
Yes.
you know, if there's a water leak, Oh man, I get a response. So you got to help me with that still, because it's still like I know the dangers of it, but of course my body can deal with it. It's
Right.
I'm not living in it, but yeah, I still have a little trauma there. So yeah.
So we call this the somatic level. Soma meaning the Latin word for
Body.
tissue, body, and the body has these memories that have been coupled with danger, and it's an immediate reaction. It's more powerful than our thoughts and our brain can control. So we will need to rewire or uncouple those associations. And then the exercises that I shared with your practitioners are working on this soma level as well, because it's allowing us to shift our inner state through our senses. It's fascinating. The other level is the biology level. And so you talk about this a lot, right? The cell danger response, or the overwhelm at the cellular level, and whether that is a physical toxin, a biochemical toxin, whether it is an emotional toxin. It's all the same to the cell, because our nervous system gathers information from our cells of its capacity, their capacity to make energy for us. Our cells have all of these mitochondria, these factory houses that make energy. Well, what capacity do they have? If I'm already operating at my full capacity and a new stressor comes, Dan, I'm going down.
Oh yeah, that's the perfect storm.
It's the
Another
perfect
stressor.
storm.
Oh no, we're going to drop you. You're not adapting to the stress anymore. We're going to get there.
Exactly.
And that's when I always say the bucket overflows, right? And that's when the symptoms start. That's when life goes, what happened? By the way, this happened a lot to people in COVID. You'll talk to people who say, I just haven't felt the same since, right? And yes, the vaccinated group probably more, but even just people who got COVID had a severe reaction. This was a virus that our bodies never saw before. So it was very traumatizing, pathogen. And that cellular response that we're talking about is called a cellular danger response. The mitochondria, we learned that's where we make energy, the powerhouse. What most people didn't learn is it's the cellular surveillance. Oh, pathogen. Boom, shut down energy, send out signals through the body. We need to conserve. We're going to survive. It's all survival from the cell. And we're going to send all these things to happen to save your life. But when people got stuck there, now they go, I don't feel good, because they're stuck in what should have lasted a short time. Now they're stuck with this cellular response. Bad news.
So the inner experience of a trauma, I liken it to being out on a hike. And we're out on a hike. We're enjoying the day. It's a great, beautiful day. You've got great, beautiful hikes here in the area in Salt Lake City.
We do. Are you going to take any of them?
I am.
Oh, good.
This is one of my favorite places to come for that grounding with nature.
And Pup's going to get
And
too.
Pup's going to get some nature. And so we're out there, and all of a sudden we sense that something's out there. Whether it's a snake, whether it's a bear, whatever it is, doesn't
Right.
matter at this point. This is the story.
Fear.
Something is wrong. We decide that we need to start running. But that's when we realize we're carrying a heavy backpack. We're carrying a heavy backpack of toxins. We've been eating food that's not organic. We've been drinking from the plastic bottles. We're carrying this burden of toxins that makes us not able to run as fast. And we realize that we can't outrun the danger because of the burden that we already have.
You were very polite. I was thinking more of the belly, that people are like, shoot, I'm going to be the one that dies. It's like, so if you're there with your fatter friend, you're going to be like, well, one of us is going to die, and I'm sorry, but it's probably going to be you. I'm leaving.
I think we all grew up with those stories of how do you outrun a bear? You don't need to outrun the bear. You just need to outrun your friend.
Exactly. So that person's going, oh my gosh, I wish I didn't have all this weight because I got to run. But it makes it harder.
Exactly. So this is where what you're referring to is how full is your cup? Is it already filled up with all of the toxins and you've got nothing left? And when that happens, what we're going to do is we're going to move into that trauma response, which is literally to lay down on the ground.
Yeah. So when this is filled to here, okay, yours is more full than mine, right? So looking at these two people, this person's going to have a much better response. This person, because it's all near the edge with stressors, if this is the stress bucket filled with toxins, emotional, chemical, doesn't matter. Okay, this person gets COVID. bada boom, overthrow. This person, they get into a bad relationship and there's abuse or whatever. Boom, overflows, right? Good analogy.
And here is what happens is that when that overflows, we move into paralysis. We move into an immobilization. We're no longer even trying to run, to flee, to fight, those words that are associated with the sympathetic or activation type of response. We're giving in and giving up. We're saying, I can't. And the best thing for me to do is just lay down on the trail with my big belly and my heavy backpack and just hope that the monster or whatever it is will lose interest.
There was a story, a plane crashed like kind of on the runway, burst into flames. And it was described that many of the people on the plane just sat there paralyzed, going to their death. And the guy was like, let's go, get out, get out. And this is the response he got, meaning they were going to go to their death. And they were paralyzed. Literally, the ones that were able had to drag these people off the plane, right? And they were angry. I mean, because they were like, risking their lives, that these people were just sitting there not doing anything. And I don't remember, but it was like the majority of the plane was that traumatized that they couldn't get off the burning plane. Wow. It's kind of what you're talking about.
This is the trauma response. And if we can just go deeper for 1 second here, the trauma response is where we immobilize or shut down, and we're waiting. We're waiting for what? We're waiting to die.
Yeah, they were waiting to die.
We're waiting to die.
Yeah.
A lot of people are living
In that.
just waiting until they die. They're just getting through. Yeah, I know I need to do this, and I'll do this, and I'll do this, but I'm not really enjoying life. I wouldn't say that I want to live a long life because I don't like life. Life has been hard. I'm just waiting to die. Yeah. And that is when we know that we are storing trauma. I often ask my patients, what's the very first thought that you have when you wake up? Not the thought after you've changed your thought. Not the thought after you've decided to have.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I almost answer that as like, I'm not sure. I would think it's something to do with what I have to do that day, or maybe it was like if I went to bed going, okay, I have to get. I have this at 9:30. Maybe it's that. Right.
Sure.
I think that would be my thought. I don't know.
And then what's the feeling behind that? For many
Get her
people,
done. I don't know.
they're feeling, I don't want to get up.
Yeah.
I wish it weren't morning. And when we're living in that place,
I've had that feeling. Like when we were going through our trauma after we
Right,
adopted
yes.
the kids, and
You don't
we were
wanna face
under
another hard
massive
day.
attack. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't want to face a day.
right. So that's how we know,
And when I had dyslexia, every school day was that way.
every school day.
I wish I didn't have to even get up. Yeah.
This is why this question has become really helpful for me to ask my patients, more than other questions like, what all has happened to you? Did this happen to you in your lifetime? Did this
That's
happen to
brilliant.
you? It's, what's your first thought when you wake
What's
up?
your first thought when you wake up? That's a brilliant thing, because relating to that, because right now it's probably more of like, let's get it done. Right?
Exactly. There's
It's
an
like,
excitement
yeah,
to it.
exactly. It's like, okay, my 9:30. It's like, boom, do my God time. It's like,
Yes.
it's about getting it done. But back then it was not that. It was like, I wanted to go under my covers
That's it.
and just be like, I just wanted to stay there.
That's what it feels
I
like.
remember that.
That's what it feels like to be in a trauma response.
Man. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's a bad feeling.
It is. And this is why we develop coping mechanisms to not feel that way. And so what do people have first thing in the morning?
They have their donut or what?
Their donut,
sugar,
their
what-
coffee, their
Yeah.
let's not feel that. I need fast energy.
Yeah, because sugar will, it's a drug, right? I mean, it can give you a better sensation than you just had in that moment.
Yes, and there's an even deeper layer to sugar and why people will reach for that. Well, and especially the donut. You'll appreciate this. After surgery, I decided that was not my place in the world. My purpose was to study trauma in the body, so I became an addiction medicine doctor.
Yeah, I know. That's amazing.
So I have detoxed many people off of all kinds of opiates or painkillers. Sugar is a painkiller. It binds our opiate receptors, just like a narcotic does, just like Percocet does. It binds our opiate receptors so that it numbs emotional pain. The same thing, gluten. Gluten actually binds the opiate receptors and helps decrease the intensity of whatever uncomfortable feeling we have.
A lot of people, there's all this positive out there about nicotine right now, right? It's like, but it's the same thing. I mean, it does the same thing. Everyone argues about, the amount of nicotine you would get in a food is very different than the drops or whatever you're doing, how you're doing. But nicotine right now, it's really in vogue. Alcohol's been pushed to the side, nicotine's risen up, but both can do this.
And what we're talking about it's doing is shifting our state.
That's right.
State shifting. This is why people smoke. This is why people drink. They're feeling something that feels uncomfortable. They're wanting to shift their state.
Because they're not able to any other way.
Exactly.
Got it.
And that's why I bring in the somatic practices that I taught your practitioners. This is another way to shift your state.
Instead of reaching for
whatever it is that we reach for.
Yeah.
Some of us reach for more work. Some of us reach for exercise, the dopamine, the endorphins.
You know what? That's a great point. I just saw a gentleman at the gym, right, that I know. And I thought, man, I feel so bad for him because I know his story. And he's addicted to exercise. His day, I remember he did this like crazy mountain bike 80-mile thing. And I remember him coming in the gym that day. I remember he was so happy because he did it all. And I thought to myself, I wonder how long that'll last. Day, 2 days, and then he's going to be left again with himself, right? It's like, so I see that. It's, even exercise. So we're not just talking about drugs. We're not just talking about, but it could be any behavior that you're utilizing to create this shift that you can't do otherwise.
Yes.
Interesting.
I see this a lot in people who are grieving. They've experienced some loss in their life that feels so overwhelming. They don't know how they're going to live life without this pet, person, place, even if they've moved to another place and it wasn't their choice. So they're grieving something, and grief is often so uncomfortable that we find ways to shift out of that state. Let me go to the gym and let me work out so I can forget my grief and not feel that. They are definitely waking up first thing in the morning wanting to just pull the covers over their head. I don't want to live another day in the heaviness of this grief. We don't like to feel heavy. We start to feel like we're lazy. We start to feel like we're depressed. Maybe we go and get on an SSRI or other antidepressant because this is what it can feel like. We're trying to shift our state out of this trauma biology, recognizing that I don't want to be there, but yet I don't have any other tools or any other way that I know to shift my state.
So working with these addicts, right? And by the way, I want people to stay focused here because any of these stored traumas that we're talking about will present as symptoms that people have that they don't think it's this. So hang in there, but this is a great example of this. So working with addicts, right? Then you start to dig for these stored things that they have. But I know if you uproot them too fast, it's a bad thing.
So here's the question for those who have found themselves addicted or dependent on something. It's not, why are you doing that? It's, how is this helping you? In what way?
So whatever addiction, let's say the exercise, right? How is this helping you?
Exactly.
Is the question you ask.
Yes.
Okay.
How is this helping you?
What do most of them say?
It's helping me avoid the feeling of...
I bet you their initial answer is, well, I just feel better after.
Yes.
Because there's an endorphin rush, right?
Absolutely.
It makes me feel better after. Then what do you say?
Right. Then what are we trying to feel better from?
Okay, right. I'm trying to feel better from just, I just want to make it through a day. I just, I really have no energy. My brain fog, it helps me there. I'm able to think better, more clear. You're still going to get that answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
When did you first notice this happening?
Yeah, you mean those feelings?
The brain fog, what you're describing.
Yeah, I don't know, probably in my 30s, that started happening.
And tell me about the year prior. What happened?
Oh,
Where
yeah.
were you? What were you doing? What was
Yeah.
going on in your life?
I had some horrific car accident, or maybe it was a divorce, right? Whatever the trauma
Whatever it
was,
is.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. I start my book with a very important story of my patient, Elena. She developed autoimmunity
In
year.
your book, her book is Biology of Trauma.
The Biology
Where
of Trauma.
can they find it?
They can find it on Amazon.
Okay,
They
great.
can also find it on biologytrauma.com.
Okay.
And I start this story very purposely because this is the story of so many people. For her, it was autoimmunity, but for someone else, it can be brain fog, fatigue, whatever it is. It developed 1 year after a car accident. Because it developed a year after, she hadn't connected the dots. She didn't realize that that car accident was not actually the big trauma. It was just the final straw.
And by the way, in 2005, there was a study that car accidents cause fibromyalgia. And I'm like, well, no, it's not that simple, right? Well, it's just like the release, right? It's,
Right.
Tylenol causes
causes
autism.
autism.
Yeah, it's like, well, it could be part of that process, right? But, it's
Right.
not that simple, right? Yeah.
Right. For her, it was what made her cup overflow. It crossed that breaking point, and her body was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. But then as we started asking questions, it was...
I always say it was the stress that finally flowed the bucket over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When did you first start feeling overwhelmed? When did you first start feeling like your life was unmanageable? When did you first feel that you didn't want to be in your current reality? You wanted to be anywhere else? It was childhood. Her mom was a single mom, and she had a boyfriend who was very moody. Whether he had bipolar or was all these other labels that we can place on, we're not going to go there because we're going to focus on what the experience was for Elena, which in her own home, she felt terrified and felt like she had to hide as a little girl. That was when her nervous system first started living in survival mode. And it never got the memo that she grew up, that she's fine, that she's safe. Her body still thinks, I'm this little girl and I need to protect myself.
And by the way, when you see adults misbehave, right?
Yeah.
They're behaving as the 9-year-old, and that's like kind of when the trauma was, but they're still acting like that, like a 9-year-old would act, right? Irrational behavior, thoughts, etc. But they say you like that, you can look back at the trauma and know that that's where you stopped emotionally.
And many people have told me that they feel like a child in an adult body, especially when they go to a family reunion or some other time when they're seeing their family. They're like, okay, I've moved on. They no longer have that power and influence over me. I'm going to show up and I'm going to be more mature and I'm going to set my boundaries with my family. And then they arrive and that doesn't happen at all. And they find themselves back in this emotional state that they were as a young child because
I know that feeling. I mean, I would act as an adult. It would be the exact same behavior in my marriage or another relationship of, run out of the room type thing. And that's what I did, it's like, but it's like, oh my gosh, you're doing the exact same things you did as a child, just a little bit more, controlled.
Right. So as I'm now working with Elena, helping her see that the autoimmunity is connected with the car accident. It's not separate. It is connected, and it goes much farther back. And it's time to do that work because now that she has a chronic health issue, she's going to need to address the emotional stress that continues to play out with this unresolved trauma. It's not the resolved trauma that makes us sick. Right. So all of those studies on the adverse childhood experiences that literally have now been associated with every single chronic health condition. Right. Adverse childhood experiences does not make a person sick. It's the unresolved emotional wounds from those experiences that will make us sick decades later.
So how do we resolve them?
Yes, now we go into how do we resolve this?
It's not the trauma that made you sick. It's the unresolved emotional things that happen. So let's fix it.
Absolutely. In section 3 of my book, I lay out, here's the path. Here's the healing journey. Here's what you're looking at. There are no shortcuts. And it will take an integrative approach because we need to do mind, body, and biology. And so knowing that, what I lead people through is saying, look, first we want to identify, do we have stored trauma? If we don't, let's not go down this path. Enjoy your life, have a great day, and we don't need to do any of this work. But
how many people don't have stored trauma?
I think trauma is a human experience.
Yeah, because see, I mean, this is why I thought I didn't, because I had a really good life. And I say that gratefully, I had 2 great parents, 3 good sisters. No bad things happened, right? I mean, no abuse, I grew up, in a very great neighborhood, had good friends, right? And then I would just throw in, my dyslexia, it's like, but that's not trauma, right? I mean, I had a good life, so I would thought, I don't, but my point is I did. So if I did, how many do? That's the point.
And the way that I see it, the trauma response is a normal, natural, physiological shift that happens when we reach a certain demand and it doesn't meet the capacity that we have. And so it's not anything bad. It's not anything to be ashamed of, even though that is what we will feel when we go into that trauma response. It's not something that is taboo. This is the body. This is what it does to help us survive anything. So being able to recognize what trauma patterns do I still have? There are 5 of them. Okay. 5 being this degree of disconnection. Mm-hmm. I'm disconnecting from my reality. I'm disconnecting from my emotions.
That's one?
That's one,
okay.
Disconnection.
So disconnection, right? And you disconnect.
By avoiding, by numbing.
Yeah, I did a little bit of avoiding for sure. Uh-huh.
Yeah, this is what we will do.
Yeah.
It's normal, it's natural. The second one is going to be this idea of immobilization.
Okay.
And we talked about the paralysis.
Yes.
But that's going to continue in a person's life. They will continue to feel stuck in areas of their life.
And how does that present itself? Give us an example of that, like immobilization. That it's like functional immobilization.
Yes.
You're not just like the people on the plane.
No.
This is functional.
This is very functional, and we even call it a chronic functional freeze in the trauma space. This idea that if someone wants to do some personal development and they decide that they are going to do the next level of advancement in their career, and then they find themselves doing these things that are self-sabotaging. They have an appointment with this big person who will make the decision if they get the promotion. And then the night before, they stay up late, they drink alcohol, they wake up tired.
Just to be sick the next day.
Right. And then they're like, why did I do that?
Wow.
Why did I do that?
So their conscious mind doesn't even see what they just did in the subconscious.
Yeah. There are 2 ways in which
I have watched sick people, when they start getting too well, they sabotage.
Mm-hmm. This is it. This is this pattern.
Okay.
It's the pattern of immobilization.
Okay.
I know that these sound like strong words, but this is literally what the body and the autonomic nervous system are thinking for why they do this. It's not safe to be more alive. It's not safe to be seen. It's not safe to be bigger. It's not safe to be more alive. It's only safe if I stay small.
Why? Because they don't want to be recognized.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this would be like for a person maybe has history of sexual abuse. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be seen. If you are seen, you get targeted. You don't want to be the pretty one. You don't want to be the attractive one. You don't want to be the funny one. You don't want to be seen because
Survival
you get
mechanism.
targeted.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets programmed into us, and we will continue 3-4 decades later to still be like, no, I don't want to be seen. I'm going to pull back. I'm going to stay in my little safe shelter that I've created for myself, not even realizing what we're doing. So there's 2 ways in which we avoid and numb: repress and suppress. Suppress is when we consciously know that I don't want to deal with that right now, so I'm going to go to the gym so that I don't have to deal with that right now.
Right.
Repression is where I don't even know all that I'm packing, all that I'm holding, all that I'm storing. I don't even know it. And that, of course, is the one that's the most dangerous to our cells and our biology.
Repression.
So
Where are we on the 5?
yeah, we've got disconnection, and then we've got immobilization. Now we're going to do energy conservation. Creates a sense of depletion. We feel like we're running on an empty gas tank.
Yeah, can't make it through the day. Fatigue.
Running on fumes.
Using stimulants just to get through.
Not realizing that when we are in this chronic trauma response, it dims down our metabolism. So it doesn't matter what we do.
Doesn't matter.
It won't even matter all these cool peptides that you're taking.
Matter of fact, in that cellular danger response, one of the things the mitochondria does to save your life is send out ATP, not as used as energy, but to send it out as a signaling molecule that now you don't have energy, but it's a signaling molecule that drives inflammation nonetheless.
It drives inflammation.
So you feel terrible without energy.
Yes. And for these two reasons, your metabolism is literally dimmed down. It's also getting a signal from the vagus nerve, by the way. And then you have all of the stuff that's taking up energy, like inflammation, and having to use up energy to try to manage it. Wow. So coffee is not going to help in these moments. No. This is not the time where you can outthink and just muster more willpower. This is your metabolism and cells that are saying we need to conserve energy rather than use up our energy. So that's the third pattern.
So your coffee could be working against you in that, your body's saying, hey, we need to conserve energy right now. And now you're just pushing, this probably a cortisol adrenaline pathway.
And that's what I did, especially as a resident, as a medical resident. And I've got a lot to do. I've got long days. I'm feeling that exhaustion beneath the surface, but I can't let myself feel that. I can't be tired. I've got stuff to do. And of course, in my programming, if I slow down, I'm a failure.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
And so
slowing down's like quitting.
It's like quitting.
You're already programmed.
Exactly.
Never quit.
I never quit.
Slowing down, that's the first step of quitting.
Even feeling tired was like, no, I can't feel tired. I have to read that book. I have to study for that exam. I can't feel tired. And then you can follow that trail of, well, what if I allowed myself to feel tired? Oh, well, then I'd fail the test, and then I'd be a failure at everything in life, and then no one would love me, and then I'd die homeless on the streets. And you realize where your body will take you with this survival programming when it's, I'm just talking about taking a moment of rest right now. How did this suddenly become I'm dying alone on the streets?
The problem with that is like, at the end of a day, we oftentimes look at, that was a good day because we did this.
The accomplishment.
If you took a rest,
yeah,
you would probably at the end of the day go, meaning there was no value in the rest.
Right.
Because it was programmed,
yeah,
even though the rest was the best thing for you. But not at the end of the day, you're like, well, man, I rested well today. It's like, no, accomplishment.
Yeah.
I read that book. I did this. I studied for my test. That was a good day.
Right. And let me present the other side of that for people.
Okay.
The Olympic athletes, they know that their most important work is how they do recovery.
That's right.
It's not their workouts.
No, of course. Yeah, you're right about that. Good athletes, because they hired good trainers, it's all about
the
recovery, right? Everything you're doing for recovery, because all you do in the gym is stress the body. And you come up with new ways to do that, because if you stress the body at the same time, it doesn't become stress anymore. And if you don't stress the body, then there's no adaptation to become stronger, faster, etc. But you only become stronger, faster, etc. if you adapt to the stress of exercise. So therefore, it's all about recovery. And we could put recovery as adaptation, because we're going to be talking about that.
Stress plus rest equals growth.
Yeah.
Stress plus stress plus stress plus stress equals overwhelm.
Yeah. I would say stress plus rest equals adaptation,
yes,
which equals growth.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, because if you don't adapt, you're going this way, not this way.
Exactly.
And by the way, the big mistake with cold baths right now,
Right.
Cold bath is one heck of a trauma. Your body
Yes.
thinks it's going to die.
Die.
Right? So it upregulates norepinephrine and all this pathways and growth hormone. And you might, if you adapt, go, less inflamed the next day. But so many people are doing too cold too long. They're not adapting, and it's an absolute negative to them. But they felt good after, so they think it's good.
So there are two reasons why our body crosses the line from stress into a trauma response. Too much, too fast is one of them. What you just mentioned.
Yeah,
too much,
too cold, too fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, and that's different for everybody.
It is.
Everyone wants the time and the temperature, and I'm like, not that simple.
No.
Right? Because I don't even know where your stress bucket is right now.
Exactly.
When you're traveling and you have a lot of stress, you better do less cold stuff because you're not going to adapt the same. I got sick that way.
Yeah, you have a different capacity. Every
right.
day we have a different
Absolutely.
capacity.
So you better analyze your capacity and
That's the key.
how you're feeling the next day, how'd you sleep that night, etc.
That all goes into our capacity. And so our nervous system is constantly deciding. It's called neuroception. It's the background calculation that's always happening of this is my capacity. These are the demands that are up against me right now. Do I have the capacity for the demands? When I do, then that is when I can rise to the occasion. It can be helpful. If I don't, it's out being on that trail and we just...
the good trainer is they're helping
Yes.
you look at that capacity, going, you know what? I don't think Mary has the capacity right now for me to push her a little longer. So let's back up and go a little less intense this week. I want to go, no, we're going to go a little less intense. Why? Because the good trainer saw the capacity. They saw your tiredness. They saw your lack of enthusiasm, whatever. Things you don't see, a good trainer is seeing. And of course, they could look at heart rate variability. But a lot of it is just watching the athlete and realizing the capacity to adapt to the stress has been less. So therefore, they lessen the stress. And that's a good thing.
And so when we push ourselves too hard, we go into injury. And then that's when the setback happens.
Yeah. How many people have the injury after injury after injury? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like you're not listening to your body. You're pushing too hard.
It sounds like pattern number 1 of disconnected from their bodies.
Yeah.
This is what I see all the time. People are more disconnected from their body than they realize. I even have yoga teachers come through my programs and they're like, I had no idea I was disconnected from my body. I work with the body.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just this idea of, but how do you work with your body? Are you telling your body what to do? Or are you actually listening to your body and responding?
The yoga teachers, the whatever instructors, they're typically loaded with KT tape because they're way overdoing it, not listening to their body because it's an addiction. They're serving the addiction, really is what's happening.
And this is what a lot of people do when it comes to the trauma work or personal development. But when a person realizes, okay, I've got some unresolved trauma, often what they're thinking, Dan, is, let's get this done then. Let me enroll in this intensive. Or right now it's psychedelics. Let me go on this psychedelic journey. And do you have the capacity for that?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you jumping in and you don't have the capacity for that?
And by the way, let's deal with that 800-pound girl in the room because I find a lot of people, they're getting worse from it. And it's the next journey. That's the next, whatever we're calling these things. But so what is your feeling about the psychedelics? And there's so many. And we can talk about all of them or put them all in one lump.
At the end of the day, if I could simplify it, I would say it comes back to what you do, where I want to know your toxin load before you do that. Mm-hmm. I want to know how well can your body metabolize substances. How well can your body detoxify?
Because they all work because they're poison.
Exactly.
Whether it's ayahuasca, whether it's mushrooms, it's a poison, and it's a hormetic reaction. The thought is that, the premise, I should say, is that it allows you to get to the traumas in your subconscious that you've stuffed, okay? So it allows you to tap into that on these psychedelic trips. What's your thoughts from a scientific perspective on that?
I liken it to our trauma being like a bear, and it's hibernating in a cave because that's where we've put it. And how do we want to approach that bear? Do we want to approach that bear as, okay, I know that I need to have you come out. I'd like to do this in a safe way. Let's figure out a way to be friends and to, tame your bareness that can come out. Or do we want to come in and poke the bear and stick the bear? And that's what I feel a lot of the psychedelics could be, is we're going into stuff that we don't even know is there. Is that really the way that honors the body? The body is storing it for a reason, and it's decided.
That's my fear there.
Exactly.
In other words, it is stored for a reason because it's worried about your conscious dealing with it.
Yes.
Right? So uprooting it. And I've noticed that this becomes almost an addictive thing. Like people, I don't know anyone that's done it once. I'm sure there is somebody that's done it once, but that's very rare. It's someone who does it again and again and again. And they talk about all their breakthroughs. But I'm going to be honest with you, a little bit critical, but I am that guy. My wife will tell you. I look at their life and I go, I don't see it. I mean, I don't see that they're better, and I'm being honest. It's like, cause I watch for a long time before I, partake, and I go, I'm not liking what I see.
I think that the body holds so much wisdom. And when we come in and we say, I've got a better plan than you, it's never going to go well.
Innate intelligence.
And so when I see that my body has been holding something from me, it has a reason. And I think it's a better approach to understand that reason and then create the safety for something different rather than forcing an opening up that the body says, I'm not ready for you to see that. Okay. We're not ready to feel the intensity of those emotions that can come up with that. But until the body feels like it's safe to show us these things, its job is to keep them stored away.
People will say, though, that it helped them see, things that they didn't see about that trauma, and therefore that helped them deal with that trauma.
And this is where I allow for a lot of space. I'll be curious your perspective on this, but I have seen so many things in life now, especially as an addiction medicine doctor, where some people can have one truth and another person was there at that same experience and they have a very different truth of what happened. Is one person wrong and the other person right? I have just come to the place where I allow for a lot of space for, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting? I don't know. So are they seeing things? Are they seeing things that never actually happened?
This is my question. So you have all the questions I have, and I've been sitting back. People ask me about this, and I don't take a position.
Right.
I say my concerns.
Sure. Yeah.
And I know, and I always say, like, I know people swear by it and say it's benefited them. So, but these are some of the things that I think right there. Did they really see that? I mean, was it really happening? Or is it just, the mind can make things up. We all have dreams that actually didn't happen.
We do.
Because our brain makes it's playful, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I give space for all of that.
Yeah.
And so for some people, I have seen how they do it. It is so helpful. It has been so helpful for them. And it allowed them to be more open to true and pure love. Wonderful. Excellent. And for other people, I've seen it seem to open up things where they're like, I didn't know that I was abused as a child, but I saw that in my psychedelic journey, and now I know. And now it's causing all of this tension in their family because their family's like, this didn't happen. And the person's like, but yes, it did. This is what came to me in the psychedelic journey. So
yeah, did that happen? Yeah,
I don't know, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that's like, that doesn't seem helpful. That doesn't seem helpful.
I know.
And the other thing, last thing, and then I'll simmer down. Mm-hmm. This idea that we've got to go into the past and we've got to dig stuff up. I am very much cautious about that. I do not believe that we need to be archaeologists when it comes to our trauma. Instead, what I look at is, how is it affecting you today? What are the trauma patterns showing up in your life right now? Then let's work with those. We don't need to go into the stories of the past.
Because could it's, burying that like that, innate intelligence knows best and saying, listen, I did that for a reason. All you need to do is deal with this emotion that you're dealing with now.
Right.
Whether it's connected or not, you can still deal with this. You don't have to uproot all of that emotion around it.
Right.
That could be more trauma. You could actually add trauma.
We can relive things rather than resolve things.
And by the way, someone traumatized would be like, yeah, that's what I've been running from all these years.
Exactly.
Is because I don't want to feel those feelings anymore.
Right.
My experience with mold, right? It's like, I'll be the first to say I'm afraid of mold because I don't want to feel those feelings. It's just that simple. Show me how not to feel those feelings. I don't need to revisit, feeling that way. It's like, I've got memory of that. It's like, but I don't want that.
Right. So how do we resolve things now without digging up the past and going into all of these details? Do we even need to know the story? Simple answer is no, we don't.
I just want to put a cap on the psychedelic thing of one of my concerns, right? And I'm really open to it. I'm open until proven out, but I'm also a skeptic, and that's what I said my wife will say. I really analyze things and I really watch, and that's where I'm at in this whole thing, right? But my major premise, though, is probably the biggest problem as I sit here and think about that. Meaning, biblically, the Bible warns us about these things, meaning things that open up our subconscious. Right. And any drug can do that, right? Even, any street drug, whatever. But when you open up the subconscious, that allows other things to come in. And that's why the Bible warns us about that. That's my concern, is that I had a friend that I watched change because of ayahuasca journeys. And oddly, the night before he went for one, we had a conversation, and I said this to him. My concern is, and I, showed him, in the Bible where that, is stated, that you could open that up and allow something in. And so I know people will say, well, that's why it's really important to put people around you. Yeah, but you don't know the spirits that are around there. Anyway, that's my overwhelming scare about it. So just to cap that off, let's finish your thought.
Yeah, this idea that we're opening ourselves up to what?
Yeah, that's my point.
To what?
To what?
To what?
To what? I mean, you could have someone next to you with good intentions. Oh, and I didn't even finish the story. So I said, hey, how did that go? And this was like a month later maybe. And he said, it was very odd because, what you had said, the guy that was with me in the journey was saying all these really dark things while he was having this experience, to the point where he said, why are you saying that? And he said, well, because we want to balance the good and the evil and let your subconscious deal with it, blah, 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 some weird kind of thing. I'm like, oh no. But, I watched a change there. So that's the fear. And so that was like, oh my gosh, that's what I feared. And look, so very odd.
How very interesting. And again, I think it's how we do things that is so important. It's not just trauma therapy. Go do trauma therapy. No, it's how are you going to do the trauma therapy, right? Go do cold plunges. Well, how are you going to do the cold plunges?
Right.
It's the how that allows us to either be in alignment with our body or disconnected from our body. And when we are disconnected, there is never a good outcome that can happen.
Never.
So what I say is, what we want to do is we want to create the safety that our body says, oh, you're ready for this. You have the capacity for this. Okay, then let me bring it to the surface. I would rather facilitate that as opposed to, no, you're telling me we're not ready, but I'm going to go digging and I'm going to force it up. I want to make the invitation. I don't want to use force. I want to invite. And how I do that is by creating the safety, the space, the actual friendship with my body, that then we can be in it together and we can decide, what do we feel able to feel today? What do we feel able to feel today? That we can feel it and heal it. Because that's the healing, is being able to feel.
When you say this, it's hard for me to wrap my head around, meaning give us an example of what that looks like.
Yeah.
Like, what does that look like? I don't know. Like, when you say that, I'd be like, I don't know. What am I really want to feel today? I don't want to feel anything horrible. I just want to feel good things. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I need a real life scenario.
Yeah. So even earlier in our conversation, we were talking about our mutual experience of adoption. And as I was recounting some of my experiences, I could see in your face, like,
Oh, yeah, I was,
oh,
yeah. You know, I mean, in all fairness, too, I realized, oh, my gosh, like, you know, I have more trauma there than even I
Right,
thought. You
right.
know? It was hard. You know, I always say this, I know this isn't about me, but, you know, I felt like a stranger in my own home. My wife and I both said that because it just changed the environment and it wasn't good anymore. And that is, I love my kid. They're 27. That was 7, right? That nothing to do with them. No reflection on it. Just was the dynamic that it occurred. Nobody's fault. We just took 2 traumatized kids into a family. Then the other kids were like, who are these kids? It was the situation. So no wrong on anyone's part. It just was. Just was.
And so it seems that that's an example of when, oh, I'm now aware of a deeper layer. Oh, I've just had something come up. I've had something surface. When that happens, whether in conversation with someone or if you're reading a book or if you're listening to a podcast, these are the ways that our body allows for us to see things that, oh, there's another layer to this. And when your body shows you that there's another layer, then that's when you know it's ready for it. If you're not ready for it, it won't even let you see that. I would have told my memories and it would have been no connection for you.
Yeah, but I realized there was another layer. Okay. Yeah.
So
my
that's
body's
how,
telling me, okay, I'm ready to deal with that.
Exactly.
So how do I deal with it? It's
So
going to be all about me, it sounds like. I'm not trying to do that. You know, it just happened. It just happened. I'm serious.
So as you think about being a stranger in your home, that's a great thought to kind of put into our head right now. And what do you notice happening in your body?
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where?
because that's what it was like, right?
Yes.
And I probably would have, you know, I want to get out of the home then,
Yes.
right? You know,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. To not even feel at home in your own home.
Yeah. Yeah. It would. Yeah. I don't want to say it didn't feel safe anymore because it's not like I felt threatened or right.
Sure.
But it was the environment.
Yeah.
It was the environment.
Yeah. That was supposed to be
Yeah.
a safe place. It's supposed to be home.
They felt it. My other kids felt it.
Yeah,
My wife felt it. In
absolutely.
other words,
Yeah.
we're all affected. And again, nobody's fault.
Right,
It's just,
right.
it was the mix of all the trauma
Exactly.
and the horribleness, right?
Yep.
And, you know, the twins we adopted had a horrible trauma. You know, some people don't know the story, and it was horrific. You know, the husband shot the mother and shot himself. Kids were in the house, 7 years old, imagine, right? And then we end up with these kids, one on the autism spectrum. So life as I knew it came to a dramatic halt. And I just got better, you know, not even fully better in my health journey. You know, it's like, so, yeah, I mean, it was a lot. And then we went through court stuff because the grandmothers, you know, it was a disaster, right? Trauma. You know, but again, our family's better for it. You know, the twins
Well,
brought so much good stuff.
Before we go into the joy side of it, just thinking back on home, feeling chaotic, feeling like a stranger in your own home.
Chaotic, yeah.
Where in your body do you feel uncomfortable?
In here.
Stomach. Yeah. Yeah, I thought. So let's grab something, and we may need to actually grab some. Yes. I want you to put it over that area that
happened to
feels
be here.
uncomfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like any like
It doesn't
that,
matter.
yeah.
You start
by
where.
the way, when I take naps, I take a pillow and do this.
Yes. There's a reason for that.
Okay.
There's a reason for
You know,
that.
it's so funny. It's a weird how things happen. I am not making this up. My wife last night, we were like both falling asleep, and she took my pillow, and because she was probably trying to put it between her knees or something, and I go, that's my safety pillow. That's what I said, but I never called it that before, and she laughed actually. I'm like, that's my safety pillow, and I was like, you know, it's my safety pillow.
All right.
Yeah,
So if
there
anyone
it
watching
is.
this wants to join,
Okay.
this is actually one
Do
of the
this.
common somatic practices that I share with my patients. So
Okay, somatic practice, meaning
Yep.
we're dealing with the body part. You said there's
Yes,
the mind,
right.
the body, and the biology at the
Yep.
cellular
So
level.
notice what I just did. I had you think of something and then brought you to your body. What are you noticing in your body right now?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely feel better. But let me put myself back into the scenario.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
All right.
Not yet. Right now, we're going to actually allow ourselves to notice what it feels like to feel this. What words would you use to describe
Comfortable.
comfortable?
Comfortable.
Yeah.
Protected.
Protected.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see
warm.
what that means to you just by
cuddly.
your facial expression.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to do a little of experimenting. And the reason why we do this is because this is what helps us practice the connection with our body. So I want you to take that and move it to the right side. Yeah. Okay. And let's give that a moment. And again, what we're working now with is that inner felt state. And so it takes a moment for our vagus nerve to communicate that to our brain. So by now you should kind of know, like, how is this?
It's not as good.
It's not as good.
Yeah, because I don't feel, I feel a little more vulnerable.
Right?
This, I feel more protected.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Well, okay. We're
Move
going to go
around.
to the left side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Right?
It just feels better here.
And he immediately moves it back.
Better. It does feel better here.
Yeah. All right. So let's give that a second. Let's let your body adapt back to feeling comfortable. And I'm going to use the word protected since that's the word that you used. I get a deep breath with that idea of being able to feel protected. Yeah, and I noticed that you took a deep breath. I notice your shoulders coming down. Do you notice that?
Yep.
All right. Now, because you're so courageous and you're so resilient, I'm going to ask you to do something that I don't always ask people to do. But I want you to take it away, take it off. And now tell me the first thing
My first thing that what?
that you're noticing.
Oh, that I'm noticing.
Yeah.
First thing I'm noticing.
Take away your safety blanket or your safety pillow.
Yeah, I mean, I still actually feel okay. So,
Not as good.
but not as good.
Not as
Yeah.
good. How do you know that?
Yeah, just when that's here,
Yeah.
you know, there's definitely a feeling, you know, of comfort.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you know that you feel comfort? How do you know that you feel good? What's the sensation inside?
Yeah, I mean, it's that, how do I know? I mean, because I feel relaxed. Is that
Yes.
normal?
Yeah.
I feel relaxed. When I do this, it's not as relaxing.
Yeah.
However, I will say though, like, and maybe it's my posture now, you know, that it was like when I first thought the thoughts, I don't have that.
Sure.
I don't have the same level of anxiety, but it
Right.
absolutely still is more comfortable with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So with this protection, there's a relaxation of the muscles.
A somatic effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what I'm noticing is that there's a relaxation in your abdominal muscles because they're not having to protect you because you're protecting them. Our bracing happens in our hips, in our abdominal wall, our shoulders. That's where our bracing happens. And so when we bring in a sense of protection, those are the
Relaxes.
areas in which
So
it relaxes.
that's why when I think napping is a really good thing. right?
Yes.
And I try to relax and lay down even when I'm not tired, right? But I do this pillow thing because it relaxes me and I'm able to nod off for even 15, 20 minutes. But without it, I don't nod off.
Exactly.
Isn't that crazy?
No, this
Yeah.
this is why.
I guess
This
it's
is
not
the
crazy for you.
scientific reason
but
why.
I just thought, you know, if someone said, why do you use a pillow? I'd be like, I'm just warmer and more comfortable. That would have been my response. It's just comfortable.
Right.
But I didn't realize
Now
it
you
was
know.
it was more of an emotional thing
Oh yeah, this
for me
is
to do that.
Yes.
Am I the only crazy one? Okay.
No one needs to answer that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So this is actually tapping into our attachment, our survival, what our body feels like it needs to do for us versus, no, I can be here. I can protect you. You don't need to protect yourself, which then means it's safe to fall asleep. If we're in danger, it's not safe to fall asleep.
It's so true because sleeping is
the most vulnerable thing we can do.
Right. It is. It's very vulnerable. You know, it's funny. My friend, Dr. Peter, Dr. Sleep Right, he trains people to sleep on their back, and he has them do this, right? And I did it before he said something just instinctively, right? But And they do it because he said people feel protected.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yep.
So now while we're here, this is an example of shifting our state.
Okay. Yeah.
Rather than reaching for the Twinkie, for the granola bar, for the potato chips, for the whatever.
Yeah, so you're trying to take the compensations,
Yes.
coping, you call them,
Yes.
coping mechanisms
Yes.
that are bad behaviors to,
Sure.
or not good for us, right? Yeah.
Not helpful.
Yeah, not helpful, could make things worse, and replace it with something that has a body effect, somatic effect, and therefore, it works for me, not against me.
Right. We reach for those things because we feel scared, for example. I'm feeling scared. I don't want to feel scared. So I'm going to numb that feeling with this.
Yeah, nicotine, sugar,
Whatever it is.
whatever
Whatever
it is,
it is.
breaks a state.
Whereas if I can bring in a pillow over my stomach, even as silly as that seems, and I can now give myself that feeling of protection so I don't feel as scared. Now I don't need to numb.
Yep, makes sense.
So this is the power.
That's only one aspect. There's the mind,
Right.
our thoughts,
Right.
the body. That's
Yep.
what this is actually changing my state in my
Yep.
body. And
Yep.
then there's the cellular response.
Exactly.
That's oftentimes connected to something in a place of the brain called the amygdala.
Absolutely.
That's stored. We know not to touch a hot stove because we probably touched something hot and go, okay, right? I mean, that's that stored thing. So how do you deal with that part?
That's what comes next. So the very first thing that a person needs to learn, if they really want to reprogram their trauma responses, the first thing they need to learn are things like this. Things like this. There are many more. But this idea of when you notice yourself feeling scared, lonely, overwhelmed, afraid, whatever it is, let's state shift in the moment rather than calling your therapist and making an appointment for next week. Rather than reaching for whatever other thing that we have found to shift our state, let's state shift right now.
Breath work's very in vogue right now, right?
Sure.
But breath work, there's a noticeable body somatic response.
Sure.
Meaning when you start breathing, I mean, that's why people breathe in cold baths. That's why in stressful situations, it's like you can immediately get your body to respond because of CO2, oxygen, it's even really a cellular response. Yeah.
So when you've been working with your family, your adopted children, for example, and they were out of control, did telling them to calm down?
No.
You don't even need me to finish the question.
Yeah. No, it was my oldest biological Daniel who was the one I needed to say calm down. But that never works.
Never works.
Yeah.
So I see that often as the same relationship that we have with our breath. Our breath is just an expression of our state. And if we're trying to say, breath, you need to calm down, you need to take deeper breaths.
That's not going to work. Yeah.
It can be helpful, but it's more of a Band-Aid thing because really the breath is just an outpouring of the nervous system behind it, just like our thoughts, just like the beliefs about ourselves.
If a lion walked in the room without trying, all of our heart rate would go up, our breath would go up.
Exactly.
We'd breathe deeper, heavier, faster, right?
Right.
So,
right.
Survival.
Survival.
It's preparing for fight or flight.
So we can use our breath then as information. Where is my state right now? And what I like to do, again, same thing with the psychedelic conversation, is I like to make the invitation to my body to shift a state, and then everything downstream will change. Then I will have deeper breaths, and they'll be spontaneous deeper breaths. Right. They won't be ones that I've forced or that I've made a conscious decision. So I use my breath as more information and allow me to be working with it rather than me forcing it to do something that it's not wanting to do right now. So even just now, as we do these exercises, this is what people often notice. My breath, I hadn't noticed this before perhaps, but my breath was more shallow. And now just with this, whatever we want to call it, safety pillow, I notice my breath deepening and it going into my belly. That's what we want to do. We want to have that be a spontaneous expression of our body rather than something that we're forcing, because it doesn't always change the state behind the breath.
Right.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't.
Right. All right. Good. So that's step one.
Step one is learning to shift your state. Why? Because from your work, you know this, that the more time that we are in survival mode, the more our body is shutting down the detoxification pathways, metabolism, hormones are getting imbalanced. So it's looking at how much time are we in stress and survival versus how much time are we in parasympathetic. And the most helpful thing that a person can do for their health is to spend more time in parasympathetic. Then when it's appropriate, have their stress, then their recovery so that they can adapt. The more time that we spend in that overwhelmed place, the more toxins will build up.
Yeah,
The more that
so
our
true.
metabolism will
And
shut
they're very
down.
difficult oftentimes to detox because
Very
they're
difficult.
guarded. Detox is a stress,
Yes.
right? Yeah, absolutely.
So
That's
this is why-
when I was sick, exercise made me more
Oh,
tired.
absolutely.
I couldn't exercise.
It was
would
not the
leave
right
me
time.
wiped out. It
Yeah.
wasn't the right time. My body said, nope.
Nope. Don't have the capacity
Yeah.
for that.
You know, I'm helping a guy, that I absolutely love and adore, and the moment he starts feeling good, he starts exercising,
Yes.
and I'm like, stop.
Because he's using up all of his energy for that.
I know,
And then there's
yeah.
nothing left
Yeah,
for his
that's
body
exactly
to do the
what
repair.
happens, yeah, because in his mind it's health,
Right.
but it's like not for you right now.
Right.
Love exercise, just not right now for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this idea that the first thing that I would want people to do is learn to be able to shift their state,
Yeah, shift the
so
state.
that they can spend more time in
Yeah.
parasympathetic.
And to your point, you can't just shift your thoughts.
No.
Because that's impossible. It's like, don't tell me there's not a lion in the room. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, don't tell me that mold's not going to hurt me. It's
Right.
like, I know too much, right? Can't shift the thoughts. But if you can shift the state,
Exactly.
it automatically does it.
Yes.
Right. As soon as I did that, my body, shoulders came down. I felt the feeling. All of that happened. I didn't have to think about it. Yeah.
Right. So then once we are spending more time in parasympathetic, then we can do the deeper stuff. Then we can even, if we need to, work on a story of our past that still needs to be resolved. But please don't do that until you have these skills to shift your state. Because what if you start working on a story and you find yourself in these big
it's the same
emotions?
thing. You don't, in my detox, there's a prep phase. Like,
yes.
you don't just detox.
No.
Right? You have to prepare.
This is
That's
the
what
preparation.
You're doing here.
Yes.
You're preparing. This is the prep phase.
This is the prep phase.
Now we can start, with the body's permission,
Yes.
start uprooting,
Yes.
detoxing the trauma.
100%. So then the next phase is really making this parasympathetic state more of our default state. So that it's not like, okay,
Let me just, I have so many listeners that are from all walks, right?
Yeah.
Sympathetic is flight or flight, survival type thing. That's parasympathetic is safety, digestion, right? Calming state, healing, recovery. Okay.
Yes. I call it calm and yet alive.
Yeah.
It's not the calm and numb.
Right.
It's the calm and alive.
Alive. I mean, you're digesting food. You go parasympathetic. Right?
Yes.
So that is alive.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's still a work state. Your body's digesting, assimilating.
And it's when all of the innate healing strategies are engaged in the body. So whether we're taking supplements, whatever protocol we're on, they will work best
In a parasympathetic
when
state.
we are in parasympathetic. But then we need to make that stick, right? Not just when we come to do a somatic exercise.
How do we know when we're in a parasympathetic versus a sympathetic, just how we feel? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel relaxed? I mean, what are some of the questions?
I base it on people's energy level. And so I have a nervous system journal and have them fill it out every hour for 3 days. Just mark on the graph, where are you at? Are you in a really high energy, whether that's anxiety or restlessness? Then we're going to put you up in that sympathetic. Are you in the middle where you're calm and alive? That's the parasympathetic. Are you in the heaviness, the depression, the I can't do this anymore? Well, then that's that low trauma response state. So we're mapping out their nervous system throughout the whole day for 3 days in a row. We learn so much about their nervous system this way. And this is where we then say, when you're in these other states, is that the right time to be in those states? If it's not, well, then let's teach you some of these somatic self-practices so that you can shift your state when you notice that you've lost your sense of safety, bring you back. And now over time, that starts to get wired into neuroplasticity.
It's normal to go into a sympathetic state. It's a survival
healthy.
mechanism. It's
Yes.
healthy, right? So it's not good or bad.
Right.
It's just the ability to go back and forth.
Yes. When
Because
we
you're
go
not
into that
stuck.
activation, can
Yeah.
we come back to a sense of safety? Or is it like the runaway train that once it's left the station, our whole day is derailed?
Yeah, right.
And now we're looking at how do I optimize neuroplasticity so that it can be working for me and reprogramming my nervous system so that parasympathetic and appropriate sympathetic is happening.
Explain what neuroplasticity is, because many people don't understand that.
This is where the hope comes in. Neuroplasticity means that our nervous system, or neuro is plastic, meaning it can change. If it couldn't change, we'd be stuck like this for the rest of
no
our
hope.
life. No hope.
Your brain can literally rewire itself.
Isn't this
New
fascinating?
pathways.
Yes.
Neuroplasticity. Yeah, it's cool.
And the main intention of neuroplasticity is to save us energy so that whatever we do, it will habituate for us. Whatever we repeat, it will make it easy.
Let me give people an example of that. When we first start riding a bike, there's so much energy. There's so much energy. There's so much
focus
and
that
then
has to be there.
As learning to ride a bike is neuroplasticity. Your body's the reason why you get better, because you're literally building neural pathways from your brain to your body and wiring those, wiring. The more you do it, the more it wires.
Yes.
And the more emotional, the more you wire.
True.
Right? So you fire to wire, meaning you fire. You're using this pathway. And every time you get on the bike, better and better, less energy that it takes to ride the bike.
So our routines, our habits, they all are wired into neuroplasticity so that we can do these things like brush our teeth and not even think about it.
Yeah.
We're thinking about other things while we're also doing this. This is neuroplasticity at its best.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can use neuroplasticity to now wire in, I live in safety. I don't live in overwhelm anymore. I live in safety. I surround myself with positive energy, with cues of safety, and this becomes our new default state. Even as we go into stress and for a period of time during our day, we're activated and then we want to come back to safety. We can wire these things into our pathways so it's like, yep, we can do that and we can come back because we've done this so many times before.
Yeah.
It's a well-paved
Again,
road.
the more you practice it, the more it's like riding the bike. You know, you fire and you wire, meaning you set up a new, I think the nerve system is wires, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a new pathway.
Yes.
You're creating it. And each time it gets more cemented, the road gets more used and, it becomes, and by the way, to the negative, we wire, right? Meaning
Doesn't matter.
if
Negative, positive.
When I would see mold, I'd run down, or a chemical, someone come in with a chemical, I would smell it. It would send a signal and I'd go right to the wiring. Cytokine reaction, feel horrible, no energy, that was wired in. Until I learned, oh, wait, I can rewire that. I don't have to go down that road. Let me create a new road. And at first, it was like riding the bike, right? It's like, but then habit, I got myself to parasympathetic. I got myself, how I did it? This is part of the way I did it, right? I really understood the premise of hormesis, meaning that I saw people who with chemical sensitivity went and lived in Arizona in porcelain trailers, and their lives got worse, not better. They had complete avoidance of any chemical stress, even EMF stress, electromagnetic frequency, right? They became non-functional. If the moon would line up, if any stranger would happen upon them, they would react so terribly. So I realized they needed stress. Meaning, in this case, we're talking about a chemical stress, right? So again, it's that little is too much, right? Alcohol, a little bit can be a positive reaction in your body. Too much can absolutely be horrific, right? And so that's where we are with this chemical thing. But so knowing that, I started studying hormesis, meaning a little bit of stress can be good, but it's only if you adapt to the stress. So I started allowing myself to be introduced to toxins, changing my thoughts about it, rewiring it, and getting myself to be calm in it. And then I was rewiring that, okay, this is actually, I'm getting stronger. And I rewired it. Now someone could walk in here with cologne. I don't like the smell, but I'm not going to react. But it took me a while to rewire that. And that's what we're doing here.
This is what's possible. This is what I want to communicate with people that's possible, whether we're talking about your reactions to chemicals or your reactions to family members.
That's the point. Is mine was a chemical in that case, but family members revisiting where the car accident was your original thing, right? Smelling a smell that you smelled when you were violated. It goes on and on, right?
Right. So there's so much hope for the rewiring that we can do based on how our body is designed. And we start with finding and creating our inner safety, like what I've showed you right now. This is where we start, but it's just the beginning, right? Because now we need to bring in that stress. Now we need to say, but I don't always want to stay small to stay safe. Now I want to bring in some of that stress, but I want to do it in a different way.
That's what I had to do.
I want to bring it in a way that it doesn't exceed my capacity. It's manageable.
Absolutely. Like I wouldn't have gone in this nasty, moldy home as an example, or I wouldn't have sat in the cab with, 20 Christmas trees, right? I would have overloaded my capacity.
Right.
So I did it in small steps, right?
Small steps.
I remember getting gas and I remember going, you know what? I'm not stepping away from the smell this time. You know what? I kind of like it actually. And it was like, and it wasn't overwhelming my capacity. And so I dealt with it. And I was like, that was a breakthrough, right? It's like, okay, these towels that have all this bad fragrance on them. It's like, you know what? I'm going to use it today. It's like, so it was within my capacity to where I could handle more and more of the stress. Same thing a good trainer does for an athlete.
And so as we look at how do we then build our capacity
That's right.
for whether we call it trauma work, personal development, it's really the same thing. Mm-hmm. We're going to need to address the microglia and the brain inflammation. We're going to need to address those things that will otherwise block our neuroplasticity for being able to wire in safety and a healthy stress response and staying within our capacity.
So that's where I think I'm stuck with the mold, because I dealt with it with the chemicals, right? Yeah. But certain molds, probably the mold that bit me, the dog that bit me, like I'm good with golden doodles, right? Good with doodles. But if I see that chow that I did get bit by a chow, I get the reaction, right? Mm-hmm. So our noses can tell the difference of aspergillus versus stachybotrys, right? Versus some other mildew. And when it senses the one that bit me, I still have trouble because of the microglial, the inflammation in my brain. I get brain fog. I don't feel good. And then it cements the pathway that this is really still bad for you. So how do I help myself there?
We need to uncouple it. So it probably would be some somatic work that I would do with you and be able to think back at a time when that exposure happened and there will likely still be a physical reaction. And then we work with a lot of the somatic work is what would you want to do at that time to protect yourself? What could you not do that you would have wanted to do? And sometimes that's what we need to do to uncouple it from your nervous system's wiring so that now you can smell it and not have the same immediate danger response that you've been having.
Give me an example of that.
Yeah. So sometimes it's easier to think about it in terms of an event that's happened. So someone who's had some type of sexual abuse.
Okay.
And I remember that this was a rewiring that I had to do. I had an experience at age 12. I didn't even know that my body was still holding this until my 30s when I started my somatic training. And I realized that my body still had a reaction when I was laying on my right side in my bed. It was pitch black and I would turn and I would wake up and I'd be like back as if I were 12 and this event happened. So I realized that I needed to uncouple this because laying on my right side was coupled with someone's hand is going to come over my mouth and tell me that they're going to kill me.
Oh, wow.
So how
and
do
that
I
actually happened?
It did.
Okay.
So how do I uncouple that? Because now I'm in my 30s and when I wake up and I'm laying on my right side, I still have that body reaction. So we've got to uncouple it. And so for me, what I did was I changed enough of the scenario so that my brain and my body knew that I wasn't back there, made sure it was daylight, and I put myself in that situation very similar to what I kind of had asked you earlier of what it was like to be a stranger in your own home. I put myself on that right side. I allow myself to remember that moment of waking up and sensing that somebody was there. what would I have wanted to do that I didn't do back then?
Have a gun?
Yeah, I would have wanted to turn around,
Yeah.
get up, and then I walk myself through each step. And when we work on the stories this way, we can slow it down. So for you, right, like what would have been that first moment when either you realized that you'd been exposed or that the exposure had turned into something so much more bigger than what your body could handle? Let's go back to one of those moments and let's just start to uncouple it one by one. And then that's often the rewiring that our body needs to know, that is in the past. We're a different person now. I don't need to respond the same way now.
Yeah. Because a lot of it was, I don't even remember the first time, because again, I had a perfect storm. I had extremely high mercury levels in my brain, and I was living in a low-grade moldy home, didn't know it, right? But looking back, that was all part of that perfect storm.
And oftentimes when we're doing this type of uncoupling work, we can jump in anywhere in the story.
Yeah, okay, that's
and we
what
don't
I was
even
gonna
need
ask.
the story.
Yeah, so there's been other things that, so what would I have done, differently if I could have in that moment?
Yes. And then we actually need to do the physical movement. And so this idea of, just go pound a bunch of pillows. No, not really, because what if that's not the movement that you would have wanted to do? For me, it wasn't pounding pillows. I would have wanted to punch him. I would have wanted to kick him. I would have wanted to, that's what I wanted. So that's what I needed to do to uncouple that memory and now be able to wake up laying on my right side and not have any problems falling back asleep.
Yeah, I mean, is it enough to say, hey, look, my bucket, if I knew better, I would have emptied my bucket and I could have handled that amount of mold.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's like if I'd have known better, I would have been doing more of the things I teach today because that mold exposure wouldn't have affected me. Because if my bucket was empty, you can handle it.
Right.
Not that it's good for you, but it's just like the alcohol, right? It's,
right.
Too much is not good. But I could have handled those 2 drinks, if you will, right? When I was sick, as that analogy goes, I couldn't even have a sip of alcohol, right? But now I could do 2-3 drinks and, no problem at all, right? So I would have prepared myself better for that stressor.
Which, is a whole nother topic of actually the best thing that we can do to prevent more trauma responses is to be better prepared.
Yeah.
Be in a state of readiness.
And that's, what, I probably don't give myself enough credit because the reality is that my physical body can handle it now.
It can now.
As proof, right? But it's my emotional state that I don't like. That I think my emotional state can handle it, but my body can't. So how do I uncouple that?
Yeah, this is all the work that we can do of finding a moment where it feels like that's too much. Okay, well then let's bring the intensity down and let's develop the tolerance for certain emotions.
Yeah.
Just like step by step with the chemical exposure. We do that with the emotions. Step by step, we intentionally say, nope, that's too big for me to feel right now. Let me bring it down this level and let me practice. Let me allow myself. And then we bring in these kinds of somatic self-practices because when we are supporting our body this way.
Have control over the situation because I have control over my body.
Exactly. And whether you use the word control, agency is another really important word for people because that's what we lost when we went into a trauma response. We lost control. We lost our sense of agency. I can't do anything here. Regaining that is a very important aspect.
And you have it's all stepped out, obviously in the work that you do. I want to bring it full circle back to your son now. Okay, because you discovered, like I discovered everything I teach in my illness, how to detox, the chemicals out of the cell, how to upregulate all the cell detox pathways, because when you do that, you can handle the stress, right? I can handle some alcohol now. I can handle cologne, right? But when my cell pathways were shut down, which is the amount that people are under of toxins today, and that's why I say real detox is the cell. If you don't fix that, it's the next thing. You're not going to handle the next exposure. This is what keeps us alive and safe. Okay, so how did you deal with it with your son? How did you take everything that you learned and apply to him? Give me some real scenarios.
It took 6 long years to figure out all of the pieces that he needed. When I then went through my own experience, I realized that there were still pieces that he hadn't needed, but that I needed. So for him, these 6 long years of bringing in the attachment piece, which of course was huge for him. He was born with a mother who had had substances while she was pregnant with him. So just that whole attachment in early years was very crucial for him. And a lot of what we did that ended up being the most helpful for him was working through this specific type of story of when was the first moment that you sensed that something was wrong? When was the moment that you knew for sure this is wrong?
How old was he when you actually started some of this?
I mean, I started the attachment parenting when he was 5.
Okay, 'cause he got him when he was 4.
Yep.
A
Didn't
year
know
of
anything
like,
about any of
can't
this.
live like this
Yep.
anymore. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And then, started some of that then.
So then every,
But
like,
dealing with a 5-year-old, he's not, like, what are you talking about?
well, this is it, right? Like you can't rely on words.
Yeah.
And
right.
which
So-
actually most adults would probably do good to not try to rely as much on words
Yeah.
when it comes to these things.
Did you just give him some of these somatic things?
I didn't know these
yeah.
yet. I mean,
Yeah,
this is all what I had to
exactly.
learn
Yeah,
along the
gosh.
way. This is all what I
that's
had to
tough
learn
stuff,
along the
yeah.
way.
And you did. You learned how to bring him.
I don't give up.
Yeah, exactly. That's failure. You learned how to calm his body down.
Yeah.
Somatic
Yeah.
calming. And then I'm sure as he got old, how old is he now?
He is no longer with me. So I was his mom for 6 years.
Can I ask what happened?
I adopted him out to another family.
Okay. All right. So 6 years. How's he
6
doing
years.
today?
He's doing well, and I'll kind of leave it at that since
Yeah.
he's got his life and his story, and,
Yeah, good
and I
point. Yeah.
and I want to respect
Yeah.
that. But he's 21, and I just could not be more proud of him.
Can I ask, how did that, how do I ask this? I
That
don't
was
wanna
the
be
most painful
insensitive.
thing I've ever been
Yeah.
through. The most painful thing I've ever been through. Ever been through. That's what precipitated my own autoimmunity.
So that release was a massive trauma for you. Man, no wonder you're so good at what you do. It's like the level of how much someone helps someone, you can almost, look at their level of pain because your purpose is extraordinary, and your understanding of this is extraordinary. But none of it would have been extraordinary at all, even with all your degrees, if you didn't go through this trauma, right?
Yeah, no, this didn't come from my degrees.
No, mine either.
Right?
Mine either. I always say all my degrees gave me is an ability to read literature. If that
Exactly.
even was worth
Yes.
anything, I don't
Yes.
even know, So, but
100%.
yeah. Wow. It's like that led to your autoimmunity.
Yeah.
And then we'll just leave it at that. And
then that was when, for me, I realized that I had to do my own trauma work.
Yeah.
I had been so focused on him, on my patients, on my residency and career, that I had just kept pushing off my own self, my own work. I had lost myself in the process. I didn't even recognize myself anymore. It had been that hard for that long.
wow. Yeah. And then what were the symptoms? What autoimmune? I hate I don't like naming autoimmunes. Like we give names to them depending on, but it's really all the same thing, right? What was going on?
It started with exhaustion and fatigue. And I went
Typical.
in, right? It's the most common symptom of those with autoimmunity. I did labs and everything was normal. So they diagnosed me with chronic fatigue syndrome, put me on 2 mood medications for the depression and anxiety that I was dealing with at that time.
Typical.
And then I still am not getting better. So we do more labs, and then that's when I start asking them, I want you to run this panel, I want you to run this panel. And that's when we found the ANA titers very high for no known reason.
I always say you're in an autoimmune state years before you can find anything
Years before.
abnormal. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. So this was kind of that tipping point for my body. And it spilled everything over, and it was a big mess.
But you're good now.
I'm good now. I've reversed all of my autoimmune markers. I am no longer under those symptoms of the chronic fatigue. I'm off
So
the
you
mood
can too.
medications.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this, I am experiencing a level of energy and aliveness that I never even knew was possible.
My criticism and critique, especially lately, of alternative medicine, our space, if you will. I mean, you came from the medical space, but you're more in our space than
I am.
that space. Yeah. Is that we really aren't getting to the cause anymore. It's moved all fancy tests and this and that and this and that. It's like all this, all the biohacks, right? Which, I mean, they can be great. I'm not throwing it out, but I didn't get my life back by doing cold plunges or, even saunas. I got my life back by removing the interference of my innate intelligence healing. When I removed the interference, and that can be physical, chemical, or emotional, you removed your interference of those emotional traumas and your body healed.
Yeah.
And that's where we need to be putting our energies. When I train doctors, I'm constantly getting them back to that paradigm. If someone's not getting well, there's still a stressor. Oftentimes, it's one of these trapped emotions that is the hidden stressor. And because the reason why it never comes up, moldy home will maybe come up, although a lot of times they don't know it, right? We talk about cavitations, all these things. We can lead them into those conversations. They're very open to that. But when it's a big trauma, they shut down. They're protecting themselves. So it's not like it's going to come up. So therefore, that's a massive hidden stress that's keeping them from getting well. And oftentimes they're even sabotaging it. But point is that's what I want people to hear. This could be why you're not getting well.
It really comes down to, are we in safety mode or are we in survival mode?
Yep.
And we are never going to be in our best health when we are in survival mode and we've been there most of our life.
Absolutely.
We are always going to be in our best health. No matter what diagnoses we already have, we will always be on our best health and our best selves when we're coming from a place of feeling safe, secure, open, connected, creative. That's when the body will do its best work.
Yeah, amen. When you were training my docs, I thought it was very brilliant how you gave an understanding of cortisol is good, okay? And I was like, she is right on. Because we think cortisol bad, cortisol make fat, cortisol
causes
stress,
inflammation.
Right? Let me measure my cortisol. Oh, no wonder I'm so stressed because my cortisol is high. Oh, wait a minute. Once again, we got that backwards. Your cortisol is high because you have a stressor, and if it wasn't high, you'd be dead. You definitely wouldn't adapt. You'd have a new problem. So kind of walk people through that cortisol, adrenaline, stress response, what's normal, what's not, because I think this is important.
This is completely contrary to what we're taught even still today.
That's why it's important.
And what we want to look at is the actual physiology in our body that happens as we go through these different states. When we hit that stress response, it is driven by adrenaline. Mm-hmm. And adrenaline is there to...
we get the phone call.
Yes.
Okay. My wife gets the phone call, actually we were sitting in church and they did one of these and we found out that our son hit a tree skiing and was life flighted off. Okay. She had to go poop. Okay. That's her stress response, right? She goes right for the can. I went into mode. I went into, where's the car? Someone deal with the car. I'm gone, right? I mean, it was like, it's like I just went in to solve the problem, right? Get to him as quickly as I can. But, okay, let's use that as the example of what went on in my body and her body.
Yeah. So this adrenaline hits, and it hits within 15 seconds. It's made by our adrenal glands.
The adrenaline made her poop, and it made me go, literally, I thought the fastest way of the car was to run through this field. I didn't realize there was 4 feet of snow. I ran through, I was soaking wet, but I plowed like a snowmobile through 4 feet of snow.
This is what adrenaline makes us able to do.
I was like, how did I do
that? Exactly. When will I ever be able to do that again?
It's like a deer I went through it, an elk.
This is what adrenaline is designed to do for us. It's designed to make us superhuman in those moments when every second counts.
Okay, yep, worked.
So we have this adrenaline, and it's intended to help us overcome the danger. So if we see a small danger, it'll be a small amount of adrenaline. If we see a big danger, we need a lot of adrenaline.
I had a lot.
You had a lot. And what adrenaline does is it goes to our cells and it says, we got to upregulate, we got to increase our energy production, and right now. So everything immediately upregulates, which is why
Blood went in my muscles. Bam.
our state of readiness ahead of time is what determines our capacity. Because if our cells are like, oh, it would have been nice to be able to get some more magnesium first. Would have been nice to have that zinc and B6 first. If it's depleted, it's going to say, well, I'd love to be able to make more energy for you, but I just don't have what it takes. And your response would have been very different. So you've got this cellular resourced state, and you're responding to the adrenaline with everything that you've got. And then cortisol comes in to protect us because adrenaline is so strong. It's so powerful, obviously, that cortisol is coming in as a buffer for our tissues. Otherwise, adrenaline will damage our tissues.
So cortisol, good.
Cortisol is great. And it allows us to sustain the response, but protect us from...
And so was the adrenaline. It was good.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
because it gave me the energy I needed for the survival of the situation.
They're both wisdom of the body and the mechanisms by which we can respond.
Right.
And respond very quickly and to extreme amounts sometimes. So this idea that either one of them is bad is not what I would want people to see about their body. It has a very specific purpose. And so what we want to be asking is this the right time for this kind of response? Knowing that it does come at a cost. So what is that cost? Well, let's look at what adrenaline costs us. Let's look at what cortisol costs us. It costs us to be in this upregulated state to make energy. It's going to cost us more magnesium. It's going to cost us more of these nutrients because it's using it up. So cortisol then is actually a brake for inflammation.
Okay. Puts the brake on.
It puts the brake on. Adrenaline is going to stimulate that immune system to have an initial response, and you want that, but you don't want this huge inflammation because inflammation would have slowed you down running across the field of snow.
Right.
So cortisol is the brake that says, okay, that amount of immune reactivation is okay, but we don't want more because we've got to save our energy for only survival purposes, which means muscles moving. Anything that doesn't help my muscles move gets saved for later. This is just not the right time to digest my food or to have a big immune response. So it's not until afterwards that cortisol brake is taken away that the inflammation ensues. And this is one of two reasons. Either we've successfully accomplished what we set out to accomplish and the cortisol now is metabolized, or we are not successful. And the vagus nerve steps in and says, we should not try any longer. Instead, we should give up. Sort of like the story with running from the bear when we've got a big belly and a backpack full of rocks.
Give up.
Give up. Give up. And in that instance, the vagus nerve signals to the body to no longer listen to cortisol. The cortisol is still there, which is why the cortisol tests are, helpful, and they're not the end all. Because you can have cortisol, but the body is not listening to it because it's been told not to listen to it.
Right. So, oh my gosh, I did the saliva test and my cortisol's off the chart. Well, doesn't spell the whole picture.
Exactly. I'm still asking them, what's your first thought when you wake up? Because if their first thought is more of that heaviness, their body is not listening to that cortisol.
Right.
That's why it's high. It's because it's not listening to it. Just
and again,
like
cortisol
insulin
puts the brakes on inflammation.
Right.
So, therefore, it's not listening.
Exactly.
They're in a state of inflammation.
It's very similar to what happens with insulin. When insulin is no longer being listened to by our cells.
Yeah, I saw it all the time because they're blunted, right? Inflammation's blunting them.
Right. The insulin will raise its levels. It gets louder.
Yes.
Right? Just like if I don't feel like you're listening to me, I'm likely going to get louder.
Right. Kids, we do this with our children. We start yelling.
Same thing with cortisol and insulin. So high cortisol is not necessarily because you actually have high cortisol and it's working. It's because your body is saying, we're not listening to you.
So it keeps going up.
So it keeps going up.
Shouting louder and louder.
Right. So this is where some of
and
the
then there's other
research-
consequences to that.
Right.
Yeah. And that's kind of where people focus on the negative side. But it's not the cortisol. It's the fact that your body's not listening. So it's just like hormones. It's not low hormones in your blood or even making them normal. It's the fact that your cells aren't hearing it.
Exactly.
Yes.
So again, the solution to this is getting your body back listening to all of the messages, which it has to be in that parasympathetic state to be able to do that. So this is where we come back to, it's going to take some mind work. It's going to take some body work. It's going to take some biology work by this point.
So just even forcing cortisol down
Is not helpful.
I mean, it may work in the moment,
Sure,
right? It may put you
sure.
to sleep. But
It's
again,
not the root cause.
Right. It's not the root cause, right? And again, we find really toxic people tend to run constant cortisol because, again, it's a stress response. Your body's doing its job, right? But then it becomes numb to it. You know, it's like, so, yeah. And then you have all the symptoms of high cortisol, and everyone's treating the cortisol instead of why it's elevated.
Just like people are doing the breath work. Instead of looking at, why is my breath shallow?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's great. It's great stuff. Well, where do they find you?
They can find me at biologyoftrauma.com. They have resources there. I have my Biology of Trauma podcast, Biology of Trauma courses, and then the Biology of Trauma book, which is now available.
There you go. The courses, everything. You learned a lot today. You can learn more if you visit that. That's for sure, because all the resources are there. So that was awesome. You know how many people need to hear this show? Share and like it so people get a chance to hear it, because you know why? They're just treating their cortisol as an example, right? So many people are dealing with the symptoms we just discussed, not understanding it's their trauma that they stuffed from a childhood or something. But share this episode. It's an important one. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for the work that you do.
Yeah,
It's
that was
essential.
amazing. Yeah, that was amazing.